I'm not going to be well like today. Here I am making a comparison between Temple Grandin and situation with Mark Richmond. How do I know Mark Richmond? Well, I know him through church. That's right, I went to the Chapel Assembly of God. I want you guys to know the name of that church, and I want you to memorize it. Mark Richmond, I knew him from church. His wife, Rhonda Knudsen Rust. And now she's got a different name. She used to be married to Todd Rust. He's one of the people from the Stories with Jamie. Small town. Mark Richmond molested and took illicit pictures of an underage girl who happened to be none other than his daughter. Dallas Richmond protects his dad. His dad has been over to the house several times. And his dad's wife is about the most ignorant, redneck, fucking dumbass bitch I know. Like, straight up, if she was in prison, she'd be on her belly the whole time. She would be the service mattress. She would be the cum dumpster. You don't like that, do you? Now, let me tell you something. When she found out that I was autistic, she started talking about how we don't have emotions. No, we're not Temple Grandin. We're not fucking psychopaths. This is a woman who is telling me about her family and how she understands autism because she has people with autism in her family, and that we don't have emotions. So is that why you guys think it's okay to be horrible to me, but it's horrible if I do it back? Because you think it's only wrong if you have emotions and that I don't? I couldn't possibly have emotions because I'm autistic? I'm not Temple Grandin. I'm not a fucking psychopath. The whole time I was at Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett's, their son Gabriel. Now let me tell you, these two situations, the one with Natalie Marie Bollinger, she has a brother named Gabriel who is an adult now. Gabriel is autistic. He has Asperger's. Ken and Leah Plunkett, I was trying to take them to court as well. These are the two people I was trying to take to court. I needed Natalie to stop the violence. I had tried Maddie Boa. Boa was not going to stop the violence. She went out of her way to make sure violence happened. Alicia Bollinger is not going to come forward and stop the violence. The rumors that were spread to Maddie Boa that weren't true. The lies that she told her parents, knowing that they weren't true. The things that they claimed, knowing that they weren't true. Obviously, especially with Alicia Bollinger, she has to get what she wants. Between her and Natalie, that's why Ted Bollinger always took Natalie. That's why Natalie was his go-to for somebody to rape, for someone to beat on. He went to prison because Alicia Bollinger, thank goodness, told on what Ted was doing to Natalie. You want to pretend that autistic people are doing these horrible and dreadful things? For pawning on us all of the worst parts of society? It's okay to treat us like we're Ted Bollinger molesting their own daughter? It's okay to pretend that we're all Natalie Bollinger? Destroying an innocent man's life? You really want to pretend these things? Because I'm autistic? That I must be the stalker, not Tim Beeson? Because I'm autistic? That magically those verified threats from Tim Beeson magically didn't happen? Even though there is irrefutable evidence? But you want to pretend that things that there is literally, to this day, zero evidence of. You want to pretend that those things are absolutely fact. Zach Richman. That's one of Mark Richman's boys. Dallas Richman, that's one of Mark Richman's boys. Their mom, that they verify, Rhonda Knudsen Rust. Yeah, they said the same shit to her and around her that they were saying during that supposed Bible study group, women's Bible study. Yeah, I could hear that shit from upstairs. Them talking about shitting dicks and stuff. Oh my God, that's fucking nasty. Hearing that out of my own mom. Holy fuck. Yeah, you guys are totally talking about Jesus, ain't you? With your TD Jakes Bibles that you ain't even opened. That's right, both of them sexual deviants I knew from church. And Mark's new wife, she knows that Mark did those things to Brittany. Brittany was one of the first people I ever helped to find. Well, publicly on Facebook anyway. Turned out she wasn't dead. She was in Jefferson County Jail, and I went there to visit her. Who else did? Nobody. Who in her family went to see her? Nobody. Not one. She was molested until she had PTSD, and who is the one who is ostracized from the family, and which is the one who's allowed to be a part of it? Brittany is not allowed to be a part of her own family. Even with irrefutable evidence enough to send him to prison with a conviction, I wasn't convicted of shit. Because again, no evidence. No evidence. Just like Leslie Snell had no evidence. She had tearjerker stories, but zero evidence. None. That judge literally had to reword it and change it from a question so that he could pretend and give her the win that she wanted. His friend, his co-worker, and her buddies in the Dual County Sheriff's Department that she works for. The very same Dual County Sheriff's Department that I've been trying to turn in since 2018. The very same Dual County Sheriff's Department. Getting back to Mark Richman's wife, claiming that we don't have emotions. She had to see that we did in the end. When I explained to her about how our emotions aren't allowed, how we will be punished if we show any sign of emotion, you pretend that it means that we're going to kill something. Anyone can show aggression or even assault us and threaten our lives, and you tell us we need to just get over it. Neurotypicals wouldn't actually follow through with this, but we would, right? We would follow through with you accusing us of these things. If you pretend like I would kill you, then it means that I would kill you. Even though I never threatened to kill you, you pretending. You, as a pretty blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl, Leslie Snell, committed multiple felonies to help protect Dual County Sheriff Scott DaCosta, your friend, and registered sex offender Robert Franklin Warnick. You helped these people get away with their crimes. Then you lied on court documents about your involvement in court and about my situation. In your so-called protection order, you repeatedly lied. You committed enough felonies on that very first document and enough felonies to help send me to prison for crimes I didn't commit and help predators. See, that's the thing. I am a disabled adult. What these people did to me is predatory. You don't have to be a sexual predator to be a predator. We see every day, we have elder laws because people prey on the elderly, and it's not all sexual. It's also financial. And Scott DaCosta and Leslie Snell were allowed to use their positions to deny me access to my finances, to set me back months and months and make me start over from scratch again. Repeatedly, law enforcement was able to do this with irrefutable evidence against them. When you listen to those conversations with Katie Cahill, you will realize that Kara Johnson Miles should have been put in prison. You will realize that those officers should have been put in prison. You will realize that Ted Bollinger should have been put in prison, and that so should Tim, the bitch boy Beeson. All of the predators that these police helped to get away with their crimes, even with irrefutable evidence. And even after seeing the evidence, they wanted to deny it. They wanted to pretend I was crazy because they had committed crimes. And the only way they were going to get away with it is by preventing this stuff from being shown in court. By using loopholes and creating situations and antagonizing the victim even further, by preventing the victim from having access to actual assistance, by denying the victim the rights of a disabled person, yet utilizing the fact that they are disabled as an excuse to harm them. Not the crimes themselves, but the bias of them. Did they write down facts in those things? No, they did not. They literally wrote down the very bias that I was telling you about. These predators, when I literally did threaten to kill the people who threatened to kill me and my family, I didn't name a single Bollinger or a single one of their relatives. And they all got to play victim. Because the cops refused to take a report from me at any point in time. By the time Scott DaCosta finally pretended that he would take my report, you have any idea how many crimes have been committed against me to prevent me from turning in those officers or from turning in the Bollingers? I wasn't trying to turn in those officers before Natalie died. I was trying to get the help that I needed to make sure that they did their fucking jobs and looked at the fucking evidence. I was going to see Nicole Peralta before Natalie was died. She wasn't somebody that was magically there only afterwards. I told who these witnesses were and their involvement live on YouTube and on Facebook because I wasn't allowed to make police reports. I wasn't allowed to even show up at my court dates. My public pretenders repeatedly did not show up. The investigators, literally, not once did they ever show up. And there were multiple occasions where my public pretenders would call me and tell me, you need to make sure that you show up to meet the investigator. You need to make sure that you're there. Sean, this is really important. You need to make sure that you're there. I was 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 there. And each and every one of these occasions, I have to go to areas where people have seen me all over the news. This is in the Denver or surrounding area where their news reaches. Denver news reaches all the way to McCook, all the way to Chapel, all the way to Scotts Bluff. Those are all in Nebraska. And you're going and making me go to ground zero for Denver news coverage, where my face has been all over the news, and I've been painted as a stalker and a rapist and a sexual predator. And literally there is zero evidence of any of it. Zero evidence of any of it. But I'm not allowed to go to court. I'm not allowed to show evidence. I'm not allowed to have help. These people, by their own admission, all of them, never tried making a police report. Never even tried. I didn't just go to these people about the crimes by the police. I went to them with the crimes that I should have been able to go to the police about. I explained to these people that I could not go to Dual County Sheriff's Department alone. That I could not go to Boulder County Sheriff's Department alone. People wanted to pretend that I was refusing help. I wouldn't go to a homeless shelter. Are you seeing the messages that I got from homeless people that I personally knew? And you're going to tell me, when I say I need a safe place, that I was refusing a safe place because I didn't go to a place that was absolutely not safe? You're out of your fucking mind. Zach Richmond's was absolutely not safe. And Brittany, the way that she has been ostracized by her family. I gave Natalie Marie Bollinger what somebody who is a recovering addict needs. Positivity and reinforcement, and you can see that in our messages. You can also see that after, while we were friends, and you can see it in our messages, that after the fact, when she was embarrassed, you get to see the things that her and her friends were allowed to do. Allowed and permitted. You get to see that no matter how hard I tried, people wanted to tell me pretty words and pretty memes. And when Diane Boatman sent that big old string of stuff, especially after I had explained that that is the help people had given me for an entire year and it had not stopped the violence, they hadn't heard what I had to say. They were busy telling me those pretty words. That Diane Boatman took her dear sweet time. She probably spent hours looking all of those things up. To her, she was doing the nicest thing in the fucking world. Imagine if she had taken that time to look at the evidence and to speak up and share it. Imagine if she had done that. Imagine if she had made an actual effort to help me instead of throwing pretty words in my face, knowing how destructive they are. When you're taught how to de-escalate a situation, you're actually taught not to say the things, all of those things that Diane Boatman was typing. When someone is in a state of crisis, literally telling them those things is dismissing their crisis and the reason for it. What you are doing is you are letting them know loud and clear at that point that you don't actually care what they're going through. She spent all of that time doing something that literally shows me that she doesn't care. She cared enough to look up all of those pretty things, didn't she? She must care if she looked up all of those pretty things, didn't she? What did I do? I explained to her, I broke it down for her, how those pretty words are exactly the problem. When somebody comes to you about abuse and you tell them those pretty words, instead, you are saying loud and proud, you don't care if they're fucking victimized. When they're trying to explain to you that this victimization is going to continue if they don't help you. And they want to blow you off with those pretty words. Pretend like you're not trying. Tell you to do it yourself. You went to them for help because you tried it yourself. You explained to them, I've tried it myself. Someone has to be there with me and help me and verify. Mandy Singer verified a lot on the internet, didn't she? And she only saw a tiny portion of what's there. The things that people wanted to pretend at the very beginning were threats against their lives, or were open-ended threats that I had intended, things that I said that were factual. They're facts. Stating a fact is not a threat against someone's life. When people want to tell me all the time that their solution would be to kill somebody, like with Sarah Nelson. Sorry, Sarah Bacon. See, I keep confusing Sarah Nelson with Sarah Bacon because there's too many Sarahs. And of course, I keep saying Sarah Nelson instead of Laura Nelson because there's just too many Nelsons. And I got to try to keep this all straight. I needed one guardian. All of these people, every single one of these people who offered to help me, every single one of these people that I tried to tell them what was going on, was to try to get a guardian and an advocate. And to this day, I've never had one because I was denied the right to actually fill out a police report. I was denied the right to a victim's rights advocate. Now, let me explain to you something about these groups wanting to make assumptions. They claimed that because they had hooked me up with a victim's rights advocate, that it meant that I owed it to them to flee state. And of course, if I was going to flee state at that point with those detectives telling me that I was free to go, basically letting me know I was cleared, that they knew I didn't kill her. And then what happened? When I tried to leave, they committed every crime that they could to try to make sure that I was stuck there, ground zero, in places where I was unsafe. Where I didn't have the means or the access to do the things that I was expected to do. Where I was repeatedly told to go places and do things that weren't working and didn't work and weren't going to work. People didn't care that, especially after Natalie Bollinger was killed, I did go to the public library multiple times, having my life threatened in the library, inside the library. That was your solution? Tell me to go back to the library? Well, I did go back to the library, and guess what? I got my life threatened. See, the library was a hangout for a lot of homeless people and a lot of druggies. That's where Natalie Marie Bollinger was selling her drugs. That's where Alicia Michelle Bollinger was selling her drugs, was at the library. To those homeless people. The fact that I escaped violence in the library because they didn't want to get arrested for doing it in public, that shows why when I tried to meet Natalie Marie Bollinger, why I wanted to meet in public. Why public was the best place to do it. That gives a safe place for both of us. Where if she tries to do something, there's witnesses. Or if I try to do something, there's witnesses. At that point, because of my safety, I needed to do it somewhere public. Now, obviously, on that occasion, it was her idea to do it at Starbucks. I wanted to go to the police, didn't I? The reason that I was willing to do it, with all of the violence that I had had to endure and the fact that I had let Natalie know what was going on, let her know that I was being treated like a pedophile. I was being treated like a Tim Beeson or a Ted Bollinger or a Mark Richman. That's right. Who's the one who molested Brittany? That'd be Mark Richman. Who's the one that is accepted by the family? That'd be Mark Richman. Who is the one who is ostracized and demonized into homelessness, futility, hopelessness, and addiction? That would be Mark Richman's victim. They victimized the victim. Her own family victimized the victim, just like mine. Just like Natalie's. Who is the victim? Ted Bollinger or Natalie Bollinger? Who was the victim? Who was the victim? Troy Bollinger or Natalie Bollinger? Who was the victim? Who was the victim? Alicia Bollinger or Ted Bollinger? Who is the victim? Who is the victim? Ted Bollinger or Danica Rochelle Garner? Who is the victim? Who is the victim between Rose M. Kelly and Natalie Bollinger? Who is the victim between Rose M. Kelly and Ted Bollinger? Yes, absolutely 100%. Natalie Bollinger was a victim. She was a victim of many, many horrible people. But I was not one of them. Yes, Natalie was a victim. But she wasn't my victim. I was hers. She was Tim Beeson's victim. And so was I. She was Ted Bollinger's victim, and so was I. She was Rose M. Kelly's victim, and so was I. And when it comes to Bobby Forrest and Samantha Daniels, well, she was absolutely their victims as well, because they knew. She told them. In the state of Nebraska, if she'd have told them that, they would have had to report it or they'd have to face time in prison. But they wouldn't, would they? Because there's no teeth to that law. They're not going to enforce that law. They don't care about that law. They put that law on the books to appease you, not to actually follow through with it, just like all of those laws that they put on the books every 10 years. They put laws on the books to protect black people extra. Well, that doesn't protect black people. You know what protects black people from police blowing their fucking heads off for no reason? Body cameras with audio recording. If a cop pulls out his gun and blows a man's head off because that man is listening to some tunes, got his headphones in, and you can plainly see the headphones, and that cop goes up behind him and blows his head off, that actually happened, didn't it? That is an actual event caught on an officer's body camera, isn't it? It absolutely is. You can even, that man's music with the headphones in his head was still loud enough that you could hear it on that officer's body camera, and that officer blew his fucking brains out, didn't he? That was with a body camera on. But without that body camera, well, we wouldn't have known that officer did any wrong. People would have just believed whatever the officer fucking said. There's no evidence, no problem. He automatically wins. His department finds that their murderer had committed no crime, and he gets to walk free to go murder someone else. Congratulations, America. You're full of fucking morons.